Hi, I'm Jamie. How about this conference, huh? Yeah, kids having fun? Okay. We're doing karaoke after this, right? I have some feelings to share through song. So I'm here talking about tools for tools for tools. But who am I to talk about tools? So a couple things about me. I don't eat seafood. Terrified of Ferris wheels, not afraid of heights, just the Ferris wheels. I have a cat named Rocky with an I-E, Rocky. I think the Second Amendment's stupid. We should tear that up and replace it with the lyrics to Fuck You by Lily Allen. But you probably care about code, right? Well, I hate code. I hate it like so much. I started working on tooling because I wanted to write less code, you know? So I worked on Babel and Marionette and Flow and Stew and Yarn and Rattlesnake and Lerna and Foam and Bolt and Squid and Paranormal and Morpheus and Sulfur. And most of those aren't real tools, but who even knows anymore? I'm just trying to find something not taken on NPM. But I'm not here today to talk about any of these tools, though. I'm here to talk about the stuff around these tools. Because you spend so much of your time interacting with tools, it's important to know how you can then like improve them, or even like building your own tools. And there's some like really great teams out there that have figured out how to work on tools, and they have like a really big impact. Cite's like a pretty good example of that. The amount of open source that they've pumped out is pretty crazy. But before I jump into that, I quickly want to talk about something that happened behind the scenes of this talk, because I wasn't even supposed to talk today. I just wandered in here and they mic'd me up. Actually, you're supposed to be hearing from Christian Nwamba, developer, web advocate, and writer from Lagos, Nigeria. He was going to be talking about Zite's own Next.js framework and now service, starting at just $9.99 per Zite. Is that how it works? However, Chris wasn't able to make it today because of the United States' stupid, shitty border control. Boo. But so here's what I want you all to do. Please out your phones and laptops and open up Twitter and follow @CodeBeast. That's him. That's like at like the code, like the word code, and beast, like the word beast. I mean it. I see none of you moving, so cool. Also, Chris is working on a second book, which is also be about Next.js. Hooray! So if you go to honext.io, that's HO, like, hold on, Next.js. Gotta learn about you first. And you can subscribe. I think you can actually buy it now. So anyway, back to tools. So I work for a company that builds lots of tools. I don't want to turn this to an advertisement, so I'll just use some like made-up names for their products, like Bira and JitBucket, Honfluence, and who can forget KipChat. And for the most part, we build apps just like you. Wait, you're all using Java, right? Cool. We also use React. That's fun. We're loving it. Wouldn't change a thing. Well, we'll change a few things, but as far as code goes, pretty friggin' nice. But because we're like a really big company, it's not like a competition, but we're like web scale, okay? We have lots of separate products that we've built or acquired over many years. They have their own code bases, their own tools, workflows, services, interfaces. Hooray! But we all want to work together really, really well. We don't want to be separate. We want to share our hard work and do something once instead of many times. So we have all these infrastructure teams, people who build services and components and tools and all sorts of neat stuff. They provide all this stuff to all the product teams at our company that help them solve complex problems. But I want to focus on just one of these teams, my team, because super objectively, it's the best one. So along with rewriting everything in React, we also been redesigning all of these products. So to have like 1,000 separate teams, web scale, redesigning separate things at their own space, it's not an easy problem to have consistent design. So behind a lot of this work is the design platform. And that's how you know it's good, because it has the word platform in it. It's web scale. The design platform is in charge of designing and building component-based design system filled with all the buttons and inputs and icons you could ever want. It actually includes quite a lot of stuff. There's like 100 different packages with different components in there, from like calendars to select boxes, like this like full text editor, some like media uploaders. Oh, and a very complicated navigation component, don't ask. Our design system contains like 15,000 files and more than 500,000 lines of code, which is currently growing about 5,000 lines of code a week. There's 10,000 tests, 500 code examples, thousands of releases, dozens every week, 8 or so separate teams working within a single repo, and we haven't even started talking about our apps. That's like our bootstrap. So with all this code and all the things we need to do with that code, keeping people moving constantly is not an easy task. So left alone, our builds could easily take like an hour or two, but today they currently take 7 minutes. Yeah. Previously, just bootstrapping our repo and installing our dependencies took about 18 minutes. Today it takes about 10 to 20 seconds. Pretty much every single one of our tools would run out of memory if we just use it like the way it's supposed to out of the box. But one by one, we've like solved all those problems. And we've done that by creating a dedicated team which focuses exclusively on build systems in the JavaScript front-end toolchain. Sometimes it looks like that. We're currently a team of 2, including myself and this bogan Luke. So let me break this down. We're a couple of tools, building build system tools, building design system tools for building tools as products. So that's fun. Our team has a lot of different focuses, from package management to compiling and bundling and asset loading and testing and design and code quality and communication, releases and continuous integration. Can't even say words anymore. So like a lot of stuff, right? And we've created a bunch of different packages over the last few months. And most of these are pretty small. There's some fun name ones there, just like pfft. There's also Spawn Dammit and Roast My Depths. That's a new one. Ticked Off, I like that. But yeah, so I want to talk about a couple of these things and how we've sort of like figured out scaling this stuff. So we've centered everything around this idea of packages. You're probably already pretty familiar with packages if you ever use a package manager, but I want to frame the way that we think about them. So when we're building interfaces, at least when we're using React, we talk about things in terms of components. And React is great because of this component model. Why? Because then we can talk about something well-defined with a built-in set of expectations. We have a clearly defined API that can moved around freely. And when we zoom out, we have this nice tree of components that we can navigate very easily. And it's useful for us to have a shared primitive for that. So we think about packages in the same way, but like the next level up of code. So you have a well-defined set of code that is thought about in isolation, tested in isolation, documented in isolation, versioned, and we can install it anywhere and use it. And when we zoom out, we have this graph of packages in all of their dependencies, and so we can navigate around them and build all sorts of tools around it. But lots of separate packages can be difficult to manage. Having to keep their dependencies on one another up to date can get a little bit overwhelming. And also, like, trying to make changes on multiple packages at the same time is just awful. So we built this thing called Bolt. I'm calling Bolt a project manager as opposed to a package manager. It manages the installation, versioning, publishing for all your packages in a super efficient way. And if you're like, wait, this sounds familiar, it's because like this is like the 3rd time I've built this tool. The first was Lerna. The second I like did the RFC for Yarn workspaces, and now Bolt. And so you can blame all the thrash on me. But I swear I think I have it worked out this time. But there may be like several more. But anyway, Bolt builds in a couple really impactful rules about how we manage our project. So we're always moving forward. We don't fork and have different paths of versions and whatnot. You're always compatible with the latest versions of your packages. You can't like depend on an old version of your own button. Your dependencies must be compatible across packages, so you can't have like 2 versions of React. That's not allowed. And these rules are actually extremely restrictive, but they allow us to think about packages like in very simple terms. And so we're giving ourselves a framework to work within, and we do that by restricting ourselves in like very strategic ways. We're making complex problems a lot easier to deal with. That's weird. But there's dozens of people working within our design system. They all move at different speeds, and we don't have to coordinate on a daily basis on things like releases. So we want continuous delivery, but without having to organize it. So we built this thing called Bolt Releases, where you make a commit called a change set that describes your changes to each package in terms of semver, increment types, major, minor patch. And as your code gets merged, we automatically select versions by folding all those change sets and publishing them to the registry. That means that people just commit, push, and merge, and then versioning and publishing just happens for them. But that's not quite enough when you have a lot of people working on the same project. If 2 people make breaking changes at the same time in separate PRs that never get tested together, and then get merged together at the same time, what happens if they don't work together? Do you just wait to find out what happens in master? Well, instead of us finding out what happens, we built another tool called LandKid. LandKid is our baby robot goat that lands your pull requests for you. Basically, instead of synchronously merging your pull request into master, you ask LandKid to merge it for you, and then it will just add it to a queue of pull requests. And then when it gets to the front of it, it's going to rebase it onto master, run it through CI again. If it passes, it will then merge it and release it. If it doesn't, it'll throw it back in your face and say, fix your crap. Yeah. So this way, we ensure that changes are always tested on master before they get merged into master, without putting tons of burden on developers to do that all the time. So like I said before, we have lots of different products because we're web scale. But for users, it really sucks when these products don't work well together. They're from the same company, so it's reasonable for them to expect everything to work as one. But for product teams, that's a lot easier said than done. Most of these products were never designed as one unified product. They're built in lots of different ways, lots of different tools and systems, and even giving them something like a unified login, that's a pretty big effort. But our tools shouldn't be the limiting part of our, we shouldn't be limited by our tools in order to build experiences like that. Our tools should enable us to build things like that. So if we want to build a united tool chain that gets hundreds of developers working together smoothly, building better products, then our tools are worth a lot of money to our business. So that's why we designed the tools the way that we did. We designed it so that everything is broken down in this graph of packages. We have releases designed to happen continuously within a large organization. We have build systems that prevent teams from stepping on each other's toes. And we invest in build tools that scale a lot better. What? Oh. We're setting up the foundational tools that will enable us to scale past our design team to our entire company. But there's an important point. We need to be investing back in the open source community to help improve the ecosystem instead of just going off and doing our own thing. So our team is 100% open source. Even our plans are open source. You can go find them on Trello if you want to do that. But contrary to popular behavior, just being licensed open source isn't the same as being part of the open source, oh my God, community. You need to actually engage with people. And that's why so many people miss out on the actual benefits of open source. They think you can just put their code on GitHub and people will help them out. And then when no one does, they think open source is overrated, and they stop investing in it more. And then when you tell them, oh no, you need to engage with people, they don't want to do that. Well, they're idiots, because either they have no idea how important infrastructure is, or they have no idea how much open source would save them infrastructure, so they suck. And I'm not salty, you're salty, get out of my face. But if you're wondering why infrastructure is important, I'll tell you. Infrastructure is important because it is part of your product. A lot of people look at their node modules folder and they see a black box. I see the other 90% of the product that I'm working on. We all seem to recognize that we'd never be able to do the things that we do today without all the infrastructure that we get for free from the community. But then for some reason, no one thinks that investing back into that same infrastructure will enable us to do even more. So on my team, we don't work on tools for the sake of working on tools. We build them to help improve products. When they have a problem, we try to be part of the solution. Because product teams do get blocked on tools quite often. And it's really nice when they can just ask for help and get it addressed quickly. We also get to be really proactive about problems, focusing on where our company will be in a few years so that there's not this mad rush to sort out tooling when we're too web scale for it. But when people are working slowly, they don't tend to realize it until they start working fast again. It's really easy to get used to working at the pace of a snail without realizing it. And then you change jobs or something, and suddenly you have awesome tools and you're shipping code like crazy. So when we set out to create a build systems team, we weren't able to justify it by saying our CI times would go down by 20% or that our tests would run 40% faster. No one's going to be convinced to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on something like that. But by focusing on what we could do by products, we've aligned ourselves with the company's long-term business strategy, and that's what convinces people that they should invest in this stuff. But even still, you need to know what to focus on. So many people think that this platform that we have is set in stone, that we have to accept what we've got, and we've got to make hacks on top of our tools. But then someday, someone's like, screw this, I'm making something better, and then suddenly everything is better, and everyone loses their friggin' minds. People are so afraid of becoming that like whole NIH 2 invented here. But I think that's, I know. I'm good. It's meant to be black. This is the part of the slides where I gave up. A few months ago, oh, no. People are really afraid of this idea of being like considered too not invented here. Like, oh, we can't use their tools, we're better. Like, no. I think that's crap. You're allowed to think that you can improve on something. Stop feeling guilty about it. That's the only way we make progress is by people thinking that they can improve something and then going and doing it. A few months ago, I threw this thing together called Instated because I got fed up trying to follow chains of observables and read up extractions on extractions on extractions. I did it just because I thought it was an okay idea and really didn't care if people use it or not. But then people at several different companies were reached out and were like, should we rewrite all of our stuff using this? And I was like, I don't know. How'd you get my number? Side note, it's amazing to me that companies are willing to invest literally tens of millions of dollars re-implementing everything in a new language or framework every couple of years, and then aren't willing to drop a dime on improving open source, or at least buying a mimosa at brunch. So anyways, like I said, I got really lazy at the end of the talk. I actually didn't finish this talk. I don't know how to write the ending to it. I could be like, oh my god, here's this inspirational message to get you off your butts, and like working on your tooling and contributing open source. But ultimately, you're going to do whatever the hell you want. And if I had to ask you to take some action right now, it's not going to be work on tooling. So like, how about you go register to vote? How about you go be nice to someone? How about you stop doing things that are shitty at your companies, justifying it by saying it's a hard problem? Like, no. So anyway, open source is cool. Tooling can have a really big impact. You should focus on it more. Make sure that you're solving real problems in products. Making sure that you're setting yourself up for the long term. And justify it to your company by finding things in your products that they actually care about investing in the long term. I hope today was cool. That's my talk.